This is an important talk that I haven't given in the past two of these patient conferences, and really it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was more that we wanted to show the incremental changes and the real change that we've been doing the past 4.5 years of this organization. So I'll make this talk maybe 20 minutes or so, and again, I think it's important as members of this organization to kind of understand where we've been, or who we are, first and foremost, where we've been and where we are and what we're going to. These are things that really haven't been clearly demarcated, and I think something that we've had a lot more perspective and trials and tribulations with this organization and how we have shaped up, and really what is the future of this organization. Part of this, though, is my story, and this pains me to have to go through it because I'm one person that never likes to talk about myself. But part of this did start with me, I hate to say. I had some roots in autoimmunity, and really this happened when I was a medical student. We all met Dr. Chalasani when he was here this morning. As a second-year medical student, I knocked on his door because I was interested in research. If you tell the research staff that now, they'll say that I was crazy, and why would I ever do that? Maybe I was a different person then, maybe not. From medical school, I left. I went to Emory down in Atlanta. I completed my internal medicine residency there. And then I moved with my wife to Rochester, Minnesota, which is really northern Iowa. Went to the Mayo Clinic, and we were there for 3.5 years, where I did my GI and liver training. It was here, really, that I kind of took interest in autoimmune hepatitis in a sense. I did more genomic work with the other sister diseases, the primary biliary cholangitis and the primary sclerosing cholangitis. And really what became clear then, when the PSC partners came through Rochester when I was a third-year fellow was, wow, patients are really organized in these diseases. But there are huge gaps still. And in fact, as we were deciding when I would come back to Indiana University to study autoimmune liver disease, where were the biggest gaps? And autoimmune hepatitis was the biggest. And I think we've made it obvious throughout the course of this weekend that that's why we continue to do such aggressive research and really try to build up the patient populations, but also the non-for-profit and organizations like ours. We moved back primarily not only because of Dr. Chalasani, but also with our children. They have been everything to me, and again, I think I shared with our board meeting yesterday that my other job is really trying to be a good dad in some sense. When I came to Indiana, we were looking for patients, and we had plenty of autoimmune hepatitis patients here, but we needed more. In the sense of rare disease, I've told you that really we need large cohorts. If we want to do any genetic work or environmental risk assessments, it takes a lot. Social media and Facebook, it sounds kind of gimmicky now, and really was gimmicky then. There's a sense, what were patients doing online, and in fact, could you use social media tools to study rare disease? What I found was really quite interesting, but again, I wasn't surprised, that patients had already organized online. You guys were there. You beat doctors there. You found each other. Not only that, you were teaching each other. And I think one of the things and themes that we'd like to talk about is patients teaching patients, and in fact, then patients teaching their doctors. And I've seen numerous instances where this has worked. The information that was being shared, I hate to say, it was good often, but it was variable in quality sometimes, but also it was really missing some of the nuance to overall care. Often, as you've seen in the way that we talk here, there's a lot of subtleties to this disease and the way that we manage it. There's a lot of well, if, maybe type of thing. So again, that doesn't really come across well in these social media channels. So throughout the course of this, we did some research, and we were actually fortunate enough to do a number of publications and write some really what I thought were important editorial articles at the time, really showing how patients are online and they are ready, willing, and able to participate in research. And in fact, with our Facebook arm of the GRACE study, we've enrolled over 125 patients. So we've collected DNA as far west as California, as far as east as Maine. So again, it just shows you the minimization of geographic borders. No longer do we have to worry about that with these social media channels. Now, there are major issues with these as well, and you have to, again, realize those and then overcome those risks as well. Confidentiality is a big one. Health information, particularly in this day and age, it's an important piece, and we take quite serious. While I was doing all this work in the first few years while I was faculty here at IU, I met Sharon Gordon, who you've met today. Sharon was online. She was doing what she was doing already. Again, I've told Sharon hundreds of times, she was on Yahoo groups when that was a thing, when, yes, Yahoo was a company, or if it still is. So again, she was really at the front of the wave. I was lucky enough to partner with her and actually use her support group to ask some of these questionnaires. And again, this is patient-reported data, so in our world, patient-reported data is not really that high of quality, interestingly enough. However, it's tremendous in terms of generating hypotheses. And I think Frank Puglisi had told you today about our CBD oil study. Well, we did that in a matter of 10 days. We recruited 400 patients. Now, that's self-reported autoimmune hepatitis patients, but it shows you the power of connecting patients in the digital realm. Sharon and I said, you know, this is great. We have a doctor that's interested. We have patients that are excited. We need to make this physically palpable, make it happen. So in 2015, we came to Indianapolis. We created a board, mostly of patients. And this is our very first board meeting picture. Some faces that you know, faces that you don't know. And we launched it. We had our first meeting. It was a success. We had it free. We had patients come from all over the country, and 130 people showed up. They never met us before. Many of them were not even our patients. So we knew we were onto something big. We developed this mission statement of understanding patients, but also providing support and hope, really related to autoimmune hepatitis, and we wanted to educate people. That was really the first initiative, but we wanted to provide research opportunities, and that's actually kind of where I fit in a little bit more. We would use the Autoimmune Hepatitis Association to funnel patients into research, at least at Indiana University, for now. The executive board members, and maybe since we're doing the state address, I'll just have you stand up. Is that okay? Sharon, again, everyone knows Sharon Gordon, and we can applaud the tremendous work that they do. Sharon is the conference director. Again, this conference wouldn't happen without Sharon. Lisa Devereaux, if you could stand up, thank you. Lisa, too, as a strong patient voice online, she's been a tremendous advocate for all of her friends and colleagues online. And then Linda, obviously, and again, I thought Joe did an amazing job memorializing Linda today, and she will be greatly missed. Luke Britt is an attorney here with the state of Indiana. He has actually been a friend of mine since middle school. Don't ever ask him about any antics at all if you ever see him. He's actually not here. He's in Florida, but he sends his regards. You guys have met Lori Max, if Lori can see, and she's in the back, yes. And we will talk a little bit more about all their contributions as well, because I think it's important to see how others are giving to this disease in this organization. And then finally, Erin Anderson, which I think, yep, she's in the back. She's waving. Erin is one of our newer board members, and she's really brought a lot of, kind of executive completion of tasks and reorganization, which I think is incredibly important. So our Patient Support and Education Weekend, the event you are at right now, is really our crown jewel. This is critically important. This is all we've been about, but I think there's probably more. As I said, in 2015, we had 130 patients, and caregivers, I should say, and in 2017, we had close to 200 participants. We've had doctors, not only from IU, which we've leveraged IU tremendously, but also UCSF, Duke, Northwestern, as of now, Penn, Yale, and also SLU. And again, we always have this opportunity for research involvement. In fact, I was told by my coordinators we've recruited another 28 patients into the GRACE study. So again, in terms of rare disease research, it's amazing. This GRACE work that we do, again, I'll tell you it's still in its infancy in some sense. We are generating data. We're trying to publish. But again, I think some of the important pieces are here that we need to grow. We need to collaborate. And you go to the American Liver Association meeting, and every talk says big patient groups and collaboration. But we're not seeing it really move. Particularly in North America, it's been a little bit stagnant. But at least with bringing some other doctors like the David Assis and Ethan Weinberg from Penn, we need to continue to move this culture of collecting samples, doing it similarly, collecting environment, and then doing this in a warehouse so we can actually start to ask specific questions. Remember, we've talked about this disease heterogeneity. What is so different, but also what is so different about how people respond. So more of a precision approach to autoimmune hepatitis. And again, I'm fortunate this grant is currently funded through the National Institute of Health. I think that's important to know. So we are funded for another 3 years. But we have a lot of work to do in those 3 years as well, and a lot to learn. Some of the interesting things that we've done novel with research is last conference, I asked our board, what do you want to know? And again, a lot of these things circled around quality of life. This was 2 years ago, and actually a little bit before this big boom of quality of life that we're starting to see, at least in the autoimmune liver diseases. Specifically autoimmune hepatitis, as we've had a few publications this past year that turned out to be pretty important. But we did this at our conference, and it was only 75 patients, but still important that we had never done what's called a PROMIS survey. This is a National Institute of Health survey, and we looked at fatigue and anxiety and depression, and we saw a huge proportion of our members that were coming to our conference had tremendous amount of these pieces. And again, this was actually setting up for what direction that we would probably go as an organization. We have over 1,500 registered members. Why is that important? Well, engagement for one. Two, as an organization and organized patients, we carry a lot more weight when we start talking to pharmaceuticals or pharmaceutical companies. Furthermore, also collaborating with investigators and researchers and knowing where patients are and how to target them. We are spread out around the world, even Hawaii, South America, Southern Africa, and Australia, obviously predominantly North America and Europe. One of our other really exciting things that has happened this past year is the development of electronic newsletter. And you may say, well, so what? Well, this was a long time coming, I hate to say, and I think it's really done well. I don't know how many of you actually clicked to open this, but the click rates are tremendous, at least over 50%, which is great. People are reading this. We do news about this disease. It's actually a way that we actually are providing teaching now as well, fundraising and other events like this patient care conference. And again, this has been led predominantly by Aaron Anderson. So one of the other pieces I'm told, even by colleagues, I get emails from doctors. Patients have referred their doctors that they think are doing great. So we have collated that into our website, and if you guys think back to when you were diagnosed, when you first asked that question, okay, where do I go? Can my local guy do it, or do I need to go somewhere else? Do I need to go to Cleveland Clinic? Do I need to go to Mayo Clinic in Rochester? Or is there someone just down the street in Indianapolis that could see me and actually does AIH research? So how do you answer that question? So it's food for thought. It is always funny to find patients that end up coming to me that live down the street and they've been going to Rochester for years. But it's also fun to steal them back. So Linda did all the website really herself. She funded it, she built this patient preferred database, so again, we're grateful. Some of the technology of it, though, we need to advance and probably to get a wider reach. This may be something that we'll be thinking about redesigning in the future. I had the pleasure, as I told you before, working with Sharon and Linda at ASLD, and this was our first meeting. We actually did a fun exercise where we actually took a string art, and we connected what kind of disease or what kind of doctor or clinician or researcher and what kind of research they were doing. And we actually saw a lot of strings connecting to autoimmune liver disease, which was actually quite reassuring. That weekend, we connected with over 200 different doctors and researchers, and the first thing they would always say is, I didn't even know this was a thing. So our visibility to that medical staff is incredibly important. And part of that way that we do that is as a patient, asking your doctor, have you ever heard of the Autoimmune Hepatitis Association? Did you go, or did you know I went to that conference this weekend? In fact, if you have other patients with this disease, why aren't they a part of it? Lisa Devereaux did another great thing. We went to the PBCers meeting this past year in Texas. We were able to spread the word specifically about these overlap, or also known as variant syndromes. And again, there were some really great stories and engagement. And again, another thing of, hey, we didn't know you existed. For years, I was going to the PBCers meeting or the PSC Partners meeting as well. Local support groups has been a really exciting piece that, again, I've been a little apprehensive of, but I think you guys see that the benefit of having patients nearby, maybe even just meeting at a coffee shop, providing some local support, really could be fruitful for your overall kind of management of this disease, but also the symptoms themselves. Aaron has successfully launched and maintained a local group in Minneapolis. And Aaron, I think are you at 10 members now? I don't know if she's here or not. But just the idea that they also have just got their first mail, which is a pretty amazing thing as well. So part of this, they do a little bit of think tank work for us, kind of what they want from our organization, but also how can we best support them. Often this comes with education. So here's me doing a talk from my office, a little talking head up there. where I actually will kind of Zoom call in and talk through the group and talk about some topic on autoimmune liver disease. Specifically, though, this could be happening with doctors locally. If we had local support groups that had enough weight and interest in actually inviting doctors from local universities to engage, I will be honest, and I didn't say this was a patient-preferred doctor list, but doctors in general, to get notoriety from a patient or an ask outside a clinic, it's almost universally yes. Or they're also proud of that patient-preferred doctor status. So again, for me, I think not being even recognized by my peers, but by you is probably one of the most giving things to me in my life. Community fundraising, we've been doing great. And so Lori, as I've said, is the champion of this. This is her Spread Some Cheer campaign, which she did this past holiday season. That is her design. On the back of it, we listed some disease comments. It was a way to mail a greeting of well wishes to a friend or family member, but also instruct them and create some awareness about their disease, if so inclined. We sent out over 1,200 cards. So again, reaching even people within their own family members that didn't understand what they had. We had the silent auction. I've told you how great that was. And this year, Lori, do we have any number? She's not here, maybe. You want to tell us anything about? Okay, so 2,000. And I will tell you, these amounts add up tremendously in terms of how we build future programming and how we'll allocate this money. Another great thing I got to do this year is, you guys may have seen Siri out here, Siri Vupalanchi. We publicized this well, I think, this past year. Siri has volunteered with us every year. She's only 12. Siri had a 12th birthday party, and she made this quote: "People with autoimmune hepatitis need help more than I need gifts." Now, I don't know any other 12-year-old like this. That wouldn't have been me. But at her party, Siri has some really fancy friends. I'll just tell you that. So we raised close to $4,000 for her birthday. So for a 12-year-old, it's impressive. So we had to notarize this somehow. We created this Shining Star Award. It was beautiful because I got to go to her party in front of her friends and family and actually present this to her in front of all of them. So it was really special. We've had corporate support as well as grants and sponsors. Many of you have done the FibroScan. That is not IU's FibroScan. That is actually from the company EchoSense. They believe in patient support. They believe in this technology, obviously, and they think you should have this information. So tomorrow, Dr. Vupalanchi, like he did in 2015, will walk through all of your FibroScans, what the numbers mean, and how do you take it back to your doctor to show them, and if that will change maybe therapy or how your approach will change. Intercept, which again is a company that is interested specifically in autoimmune liver disease, but also PBC. Intercept has educational grants, and we actually secured a grant for the videography for this conference. So again, we are on the radar on some pretty large pharmaceutical companies, which is really exciting, and really how that will grow and play out yet will be determined. Other support, particularly you saw the table for the American Liver Foundation. It's really been a nice collaboration. I've given some education back to them. I think a lot of doctors end up doing this, but having them here and also fiscal support, but also supporting the session where Jessica Schnur talked today, the patient perspective piece. Again, just to hear their backing as a patient group and how we can do better together is important. The PSC partners and PBCers, we've modeled this organization similarly to them. I will tell you the leaders of those groups, Ricky Safer and Lenny Moore, have been tremendous mentors to me. They always pick up the phone for me. They always call me back. They always email me. Now, again, I kind of come to them and basically say, I don't know how to do this. Show me how. But they have a wealth of information. They've been doing it for years, and they've been highly successful. This mindfulness and resilience program, this is highly, highly innovative, guys. Really, there's nothing else like this. This was dreamed up as a way to give you tools to maybe impact this. And actually, the exciting thing is this comes from a lot of the work they've done at Yale with Dr. Assis' group. And really understanding that with mindfulness and some of these strategies, you can lower inflammatory molecules and improve this disease possibly. Because of this and what we were seeing in our members, we actually put together a grant this year that looks at acceptance and commitment therapy. A little bit different, but very similar. Really, again, teaching how to notice, how to identify values and really embrace your own behaviors. But hopefully this idea is that this changes things, much like Dr. John said earlier. Fatigue, anxiety, and symptoms of depression can be relieved. We put this together as a grant for the Global Genes Rare Impact Grant this past year. It was a fun thing to do because we had never constructed a grant in this realm before. I've wrote a number of grants, but to do it with Aaron Anderson, from the patient perspective, was highly enlightening for me. We didn't get it, which is okay. It's happening, right? And I'll tell you why. We didn't get it. They thought we were too ambitious. Maybe so. But you know what? Ambition never killed or hurt anybody. And I told everyone yesterday at our board meeting was we're going to rub it back in their face when we reapply this next year. And in fact, the AIHA can get things done. So to do this mindfulness program, we have got a tremendous gift from the Smith Fuquay Foundation. They will be providing the funding for this mindfulness program, which includes Dr. John's time, but also Tommy Perry. But it's not even just that. It's actually the construction of the surveys, the post-survey follow-up, as well as the brush-up events that will happen via either teleconference or Zoom meetings in the weeks to come. We really want to see, as almost a clinical study, does this change the measures or the metrics of these pieces for patients that are involved? With this, we are actually going to produce an online program or webinar. My goal and hope is that we actually can share it across all diseases. And in fact, patients have new toolkits that they can take home and really implement on their own. Other gifts that we received this past year is from the Browner family. They've been strong advocates for us as well. Their funding has supported a number of things. I can't remember the number. I think we had 5 or 6 outside individuals come in because of financial need. So again, it just warms my heart. I would have been happy if one of you guys showed up this weekend. So the fact that we could pay and enable individuals to come here that otherwise would not is awesome. And this has cost close to $3,500, but again, it's well worth the price. Graphic recording as well. I have completely enjoyed Julia. I'm really interested to see how the time-lapse photography looks. Have you ever done that before? The time-lapse drawing? Okay, so that'll be something new as well. So again, this is novel, and this was something that Erin had found on the Indianapolis, I think, Business Journal you were located in, and she actually lives in Terre Haute, and it was really a perfect fit, and it's been fun to work with her to kind of develop the ideas, as well as the engagement board that you saw outside, just as a novel way to interact with you, but also learn about this disease. The Browner family, from the left, Jack, Sarah, Gage, Chris, John, and then Millie's in front there, and then Ben on the far right. Again, a beautiful family and tremendous givers to the AIHA as well. So where do we go from here? I think we really want to focus on well-being. So I make some really grandiose statements often and probably inappropriate, but I tend to feel that we can treat many patients pretty well. Now, many of you would probably disagree with that statement. However, the majority, and I can say almost everybody, probably doesn't have the best quality of life, and that's just numbers speaking. So I think as an organization, and particularly with the launch of the mindfulness program, it makes sense. We want you feeling better. We want you reclaiming that loss of self. We will then also, one of the big feedback that we have had is pediatric AIH is a tremendous gap, and all the parents in the room should be shaking their head. We've done a terrible job, not only just AIHA, but also just physicians and education in general of supporting young ones and their families and caregivers. So we were excited to have the pediatric liver group here at Indiana University do our first pediatric tract. With this, we videotaped it, and this will be distributed and shared with any pediatric family that's connected on social media or internet as well. Other things we need to do, patient education materials. I've always been a little bit weary of this in terms of pamphlets and booklets, but for doctors' offices. I always thought that these got trashed. It seems to be something that people want, particularly maybe when they're just diagnosed, and maybe that's the most important piece to take with them as a place to launch from. I know those first doctor visits got to be really, really scary. So at least there's a little piece. Now in some piece though, we are already online, so a lot of people are coming home from that doctor visit and searching autoimmune hepatitis on the internet and also Facebook, and we'll be there. One other piece about this weekend, it's always been here in Indianapolis. I think we have to think about that. Is this the right location for the future? And in fact, getting out of Indianapolis, there are definitely pros. There may be cons as well. We've had such strong support of my home university. You see a lot of doctors from IU come and participate, and they're all excellent. But for visibility, particularly among doctors, we may have to move to these other institutions, and that may be a challenge as well. Local support groups is another area. I think we have pilot data to say that this is able to be done, but I think we need to put together, one, a team that has strong leadership, an individual that's willing to kind of keep track of people. So I'm saying these so you guys start to think about yourselves and how you could fit into this. Could you hold a meeting with you and some friends within 50 miles of you every couple months just to meet up, just to say hi? Maybe it's even more subtle than that. Maybe it's an email friendship. So I think these local groups, Erin, her group has taught me that there is tremendous power there in terms of support. Organizational, we did a great thing yesterday. We know that we can always get better, and I think this continuing education, we should always be striving. We were lucky enough to have Lisa Kachin here. She has a connection to the disease with her grandson, but she's also really a tremendous board trainer. She's also a grant writer. She's been an executive director. I think we are very fortunate to have her and, again, elevate the organizational structure of our board as well. We are going to start to develop committees, and these are the kind of proposed pieces, again, thinking how you could plug in. Programming, again, including a number of things, but including this conference, but also future programming out in the community. Fundraising, as well as community outreach and engagement are all pieces that we're looking for volunteerism from. And I think speaking of that, we need to really leverage our volunteers. I've talked to a number of you about your skill sets. As an organization, we are grassroots. We're still small. Now, this room makes us feel really big, but we are strong, and we have a tremendous array of talents that we should really be leveraging to really forward this organization. One thing that I need to do better is actually get our medical board involved. So it's fun to have outside doctors come in and talk, but really direction. We need a little bit of input from other doctors outside of me in terms of what that trajectory looks, not only in terms of education, but where do we go in terms of research? How do we decide how to advocate patients to go to what research? And then finally, collaborations and partnerships, particularly with other non-for-profits, but also possibly, if done correctly, pharmaceuticals as well. Some promotional pieces, as I said, we'll probably be redoing our website this next year or so as an important piece, working on those education materials, again, just to be a little bit more polished, and again, hit the patients when they're diagnosed. So where do we go from here again? Hopefully I've done some reasonable job seeing that where we've grown from, down in the valley. Now I put us at the peak, but I don't know if we're at the peak yet. We're definitely making the climb, and it's truly exciting. I'll tell you, in my life, there's very few passions outside my family, and I'll tell you this is one of them. Again, it's part of mostly you, but the individuals that are on our board, and really the excitement of telling other doctors, researchers about what patients are doing with just a little bit of leadership. I think this call to action, I think some important things. If you're not on our member list, it's easy. We don't share your information. It's just a matter of knowing where you are, and in fact, we will help you plug into a small local support group as well, based on zip codes. You should be telling your doctor, your hepatologist, your gastroenterologist, even your primary care doctor about this weekend, what you learned, and how they can actually teach their patients, other outside than you, and how they can get involved as well. I hate to say it, and giving is something that's always important. Not only financially, but again, just skills and talents. The financial piece, though, is a lot easier than you think. Look at Siri. She's perfect. She's 12. She gave up a birthday. Peer-to-peer fundraising, there's easy toolkits that you can do in Facebook, and one thing that we will do is try to make it even easier in the future as well. And also, I'll just remind you for this upcoming year in fundraising, we had our first end-of-year fundraising event last year. Now, it was less than stellar, but it was at least $1,000. Our goal is probably at least 2 to 3 times that this year. I think in terms of leadership, as the support groups I've told you, but again, getting committee members, volunteers on those committees and working as a well-oiled machine. And the only way we can do that is really with volunteerism. So again, use those skills, those talents that I know you have. So I really hope that I've highlighted the future is bright with this organization. It's really an exciting place to be. Again, the research is great, don't get me wrong, but really it's about you. And again, with the patient's involvement and the patients, you guys have traveled here so far to be a part of this. We're taking another step further, okay? Thank you guys so much. And before we leave, we have an AIHA event tonight. You may have already gotten the pop-up, but at 7 p.m., I think room 714 at the Hilton Suite. Sweets, treats, cheeses, drinks, maybe. Bring your own. Bring your home. But what a great day. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow morning, okay?